All right, so we'll go ahead and start the recording now. I'm assuming, are we going by 1.25 again, or?
Yeah, just because that's the fastest way we can get it done.
All right, all right.
Okay, is this
So
muted on
the recording is up, so make sure you're good to go, and then we'll get started.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. Oh, I guess let's start introductions. We'll be reacting to a video by Toaster XD. I don't know if we've reacted to a video yet in this new sort of reaction stream sessions. But so why Sasuke versus Uryu versus Zoro isn't close? I don't know what I guess the connections there would be like the second strongest protagonist. I guess
The
by logic.
second man. I'm just gonna say it's just the second man
Because I was
of the
gonna say
squad. That's it.
I don't know, bro. Uryu with that fucking bullshit over there. I don't know about second strongest anymore. I don't know. It's
No, no, hang on. Wait, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Can
Or
you hear me?
okay, yeah, I think it's just the second man. But like I don't know if that's true in each case. I mean, for Sasuke, sure, but like Zoro, I get Udyu's kind of like okay. So Udyu probably is the second man, but then there's like Chad there, and it depends on how you want to define certain relationships.
I would have to assume it's the second strongest of the protagonist group. Now, granted, he might explain in the video. We haven't even watched the video yet, so he might
If
explain
we're
the connection.
if we're going about strongest, Udyu technically is the second strongest. He is stronger than Odihime, and he should be stronger than Chad.
Is that really up for debate?
Like, do people actually argue if Chad or Odihime is stronger?
Yeah, like is that actually a discussion
Um,
that happens? I mean,
not really. Like there are previous
there you
arcs
go.
where you could argue that Chad would have been stronger than Uryu,
Yeah,
definitely.
but like we're talking,
But like
presumably this is post
now,
1,000 Year Blood War arc.
yeah, now I don't think anyone ever argues.
I mean, Uryu literally one shot a Squad Zero member in the anime, so I feel like he's a little stronger than Chad, just a little,
Just a little bit.
just a little.
Well,
But
also there's other statements in the Thousand Year Blood War arc that put him really high
yeah,
because
but doesn't he still have his Volstandic and his what's the abilities called again?
the Volstandig antithesis. But I was going to say that we'll get into it if he doesn't. I'll mention it if this guy doesn't bring it up, or I might even mention it even if he does. But
All right. So,
yeah.
okay. So before we get started, what is your prediction for why this isn't close? Because I'm going to assume Zoro's not even in the discussion. I'm assuming it's between these two for the most part.
So I accidentally started it and it went to 8 seconds, and he's like, "I'm so sorry, Zoro." So I'm gonna assume that
I'm so
Zoro,
sorry,
under
Zoro.
his interpretation, is probably not going to be able to win for whatever reason. Maybe it might be that One Piece isn't fast enough or strong enough. I don't know. For Sasuke and Uryu, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and assume it is because Bleach generally has better hacks, and you can quantify speed way better in Bleach. That and the anime has made it clear that the cosmology of Bleach is a lot bigger than Naruto's.
All right.
But I'm assuming this guy is cohesive in his media comprehension. I don't know. I
Yeah.
not an insult to the Toaster. It's just the problem is that we have way too many series, way too many direct statements, and people will still gloss them over because they don't want to accept them for whatever reason.
Yes. But yeah, no. So there is no, unless you're equalizing this matchup, there is no scenario where Zoro is going to be doing anything substantial. Unfortunately, because he doesn't really have a hacks ability unless until like probably the end of the series we'll find out he can cut through anything because that's where One Piece seems to be going at this rate. But for now, let's see what he has to say. So I'm currently at about 9 seconds. So let's start.
Uryu Ishida, Sasuke Uchiha, and the
Yes.
Super Swordsman Zoro, but can be considered the rivals of some of the most iconic characters in not just battle shonen, but arguably fiction as a whole. And when it comes to
Okay, so if the position's rivals, then like yeah, I wouldn't really put Zoro there because he's not really
I
Luffy's
wouldn't
rival.
really put Uryu there at that point because Uryu's only okay. So Uryu has some rival stuff, but like Renji is a more consistent rival for him.
To be
Renji's a
fair,
more consistent rival, and
uh,
Grimmjow is arguably his best rival.
I guess it just wouldn't be
He
as
goes.
exciting if it was Grimjow versus Sasuke versus, I don't know, fucking
Yeah,
Lucius.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I guess the Panther Man doesn't have as much to offer as
These
Sasuke.
All right,
characters, you probably want to use these guys in a crossover sense. It's more than likely.
he's better than Naruto. Okay, hold on.
And when
Let
it
me go
comes to
back.
these characters, you probably want to use these guys in a crossover sense. It's more than likely these guys, Zoro aside, Uryu and Sasuke have abilities that are far more versatile.
Wait, did you backtrack?
Yeah, I backtracked 23 because I wanted to make sure what he said. Because he pointed out that some of them are better cross-verse wise. Yes, that is a fun thing that goes on when you do power scaling. Is that even if a series tells you a character is like the strongest, they might not be the best character to represent versus matches for the series. Like,
No, I think Sasuke is consistently way better than Naruto just because his abilities, despite being chalk related, usually have direct statements of having these things. Like Amaterasu is directly stated to be a surface of this. So it doesn't matter if it's made of chakra because if you can't resist that level of heat and you get hit by it, you're cooking.
yes,
You're getting burnt.
yes,
Like that's a consistent win con. Naruto does have win cons, but like a lot of them are based on his energy system. You don't have to talk about the energy system when I can just boil you alive with the flames of the sun.
yes.
Against an opponent.
All right, let's continue.
But today we'll be comparing these three to each other and finding out who would win in a fight between these three. Let's talk about it. Uryu, at his absolute peak in the Thousand Year Blood War, shows feats and upscales from characters in previous arcs that comfortably make him the most difficult character to scale without underselling his power. Up until this point,
So
at the
it's
start of
Thousand
Thousand
Year
Year
Blood
Blood War, Uryu was not as powerful in comparison to the titans of the verse, such as Yamamoto, the head captain of the 13 Corps Guard Squads, and his frequent battle partner, Ichigo Kurosaki. However, after the return of Yuha, the king of the Quincy, from the shadows, where he had been for over 1,000 years, Uryu finally received the power creep that fans had been waiting for. When discussing power scaling for Uryu, the most important aspect to cover is his shrift letter A, the antithesis.
Okay,
As
so they're called shrifts.
Uryu explains, the ability allows him to choose 2 points and reverse the events that
Shrifts
occurred between them
and
entirely.
the
This
both
ability is
standing.
incredibly difficult to counter, especially against someone like Sasuke, who possesses the Rinnegan and Sharingan. Uryu's Shrift significantly enhances his chances of victory. The extent of this ability is demonstrated in his fight against Jugram, who was stated to be so powerful that his peers praised him and elected him as the next emperor of the Quincy. This likely includes individuals such as Lilibaro and Gerard, members of Yuha's royal guard, who were able to contend with and seemingly defeat characters like Bankai Kenpachi, which alone upgrades Uryu to absurd degrees. In the same fight, Jugram acknowledges the effects of Uryu's ability, stating that it may be the only power capable of standing up to Yuha's almighty. This is further.
Are you at 212 yet?
I'm at 220, so you can I'll pause it.
I was gonna say, bringing up all these characters is nice, but like none of this means anything if you don't have feats to like you kind of have to start out with like the quantification of like what makes them this strong. It's like, oh well, he scales to this character who scales to Kenpachi, which makes them absurdly powerful. It's like, well, I mean, so is that like planetary? Is that uni? Like I know where Uryu scales, but does your audience know that?
Well, so
Are you conveying that effectively?
considering we're breaking down 3 different characters, and he hasn't mentioned direct like numbers or tiers, I'm making the assumption that he will not do this, or he's assuming the audience already has a baseline understanding of where the characters scale. Either that, or he's going to give us like a minute for each character of going over like direct stats. So let's
supported by Yuha
Maybe.
himself, who indicated that Uryu's ability to survive the Quincy genocide, which claimed the lives of all the remaining Quincy's, suggests that in some ways Uryu's power exceeds Yuha's own. While
Okay, so to be clear about that Quincy genocide, that specifically I believe only targets half Quincy's, right?
It does, but Uryu is still a half
this
Quincy,
doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
so he should have been
he scaled
affected
to
by
Yuha
it.
physically.
What he's pointing out is that you're the only half Quincy who survived it when you should have died.
Yeah. Right?
It does imply that, at least in terms of hacks, he can compete with the Almighty, which is generally considered impossible to counter. Regarding Uryu's attack power, I believe this power creep in Thousand.
So regarding the Almighty
Okay,
being
so
impossible to counter.
I was gonna technically say the Almighty in most practical cases is, but that's because most characters don't have abilities that can change fate or things in reality. The reason Antithesis counters it is because Antithesis just manipulates causality itself. by changing the state between 2 points in causality. So if the Almighty activates, you can just shift the state of the Almighty with the state of the antithesis. Like if they try to manipulate your fate or change your future with the Almighty, you can just shift it with that of where you were previously and nullify the effect or reverse it. That's the reason it counters the Almighty. It's not because it like turns off, like it is a counter to the Almighty, but like it's a counter that's built into the story. It's not like overpowering its effects or resisting it or anything.
Yeah. There's also just the fact on the table that like illusions work on the Almighty, since Aizen's Shikai was able to create an illusion that the Almighty couldn't see through.
I'm gonna have to mention this again. Aizen's powers are not illusions; they're perception manipulation because he manipulates your senses. No, it's better. You keep saying illusions. Perception manipulation is a better hacks.
All right.
Stop saying that.
The point is that conventionally, as Mingler pointed out, it is very hard to beat. But even within its own series, you could make the argument that there were already some powers that could have
There are abilities that could have done it.
Yeah.
Their abilities, and those are just the ones we're thinking of. I'm pretty sure there's actually, I think Ichibei counters it. There's like at least 3 direct abilities on screen that have like dealt with it, because Ichibei also sealed it away with the what's it called?
Like Soul King's Pernada or whatever.
Yes, he sold it away with the right hand, Pernida.
Yeah. So it's not. I mean, it's a very powerful ability. Definitely, I think a stronger hacks than any of the other characters in this matchup have. But like again, even within its own verse, there were potentially some options to counter
Your
it.
Blood War allows.
That's not even
Yeah.
including
So
Ichigo's Bankai, which seems to be implied they could have done something too if he didn't just break
for
it.
easy upscaling for earlier.
I mean, he basically always says like I could cut fate, but we're gonna find out if that's really real in like part 4.
The very same Jugrim that Uryu is able to damage or allows for
Anyway.
He's talking about
impossible to counter. Regarding Uryu's attack power, I believe this power creep in 1000 Year Blood War allows for easy upscaling for earlier characters in the series. The very same Jugrim that Uryu was able to damage could break Bankai Ichigo Zanpakuto in half and defeat Ichigo. Until that point, Ichigo was regarded as the strongest character.
As far as Ichigo being the strongest
in Squad Zero.
307.
Okay, yeah, so I'm at 307.
Ichigo and his
So he basically says Ichigo up until that point was regarded as the strongest in the series, second to like the Squad Zero, and obviously the head captain.
Allow me to drop the author statements.
I don't know if I would say that's entirely accurate, especially that version of him, because we're not shown exactly how much power he has. We know that version of his Bankai has spiritual pressure from all the captains, but like there are captains who are stated in the series to be like his rivals for later versions, like Kenpachi. I'm pretty sure even Kenpachi at that, well, okay, technically by the 1000 Year Blood War, yes, Kenpachi is like weaker than him, but I'm pretty sure you can even argue the Bankai versions of some of the characters. Unohana, definitively, is definitely stronger than he is, given that she pushes Kenpachi to that level, and she directly says he has allies that rival him now, and she's in the panel where they say that they are looking at true Shikai Ichigo, who is stronger than this version right now. So she's already at that level. The Bankai versions of Shunsui... I'm sorry, what?
I was under the impression it was heavily confirmed, or if not implied, that this version was stronger than the versions we see up until before he gets his new Bankai.
This version of Ichigo?
Yeah, where he has long black hair and everything.
Oh, no, so this version is equal. The one that is Mugetsu is equal to the same, or more accurately, the one with long blonde hair, or long brown hair, or orange hair, whatever. He is equal to true Shikai Ichigo. That is what is stated in the 1000 Year Blood War, that he's recovered the powers that he had in fighting against Aizen.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so this version would be stronger than up until that point. So the one that fought Yugrum and Yuha in the Soul Society would be weaker than this version of Ichigo.
He's way weaker. Yeah. He's way weaker to an unknown extent. But they point out in the anime that he's strong enough to be a Soul King candidate. spoiler warning, most characters in the Soul Society as captains have enough spiritual energy to be a Soul King candidate. The reason they don't qualify is because they don't have the pieces of their existence to make them right for being the Soul King. Gin Zhao, the antagonist from the previous arc, is also considered a Soul King candidate. You could
Yeah.
argue Shunsui with his spiritual pressure and Ukitake with their spiritual pressures in Bankai's could be considered that. They just are only pure Soul Reapers, so it would never work out.
Man, they really
Well,
just
go ahead.
fucking everyone just fucking is a Soul King candidate these fucking days.
The amount of spiritual pressure that some of these characters have is crazy because they tell you that the transcendent state, which separates like the Halls and Soul Reapers, that's at a level which is basically just where the Soul King is, or where you're strong enough to be able to become the Soul King.
Is that why
Most
Aizen?
of the characters are at that level.
I was like, is that why Aizen was considered a Soul King candidate because it was transcended state?
It was specifically because of him breaking the boundaries between like Hollows and Soul Reapers.
Yeah,
Because the parts of his existence were more in line with the Soul Kings, where he wasn't one type of being.
yes.
That's what makes you a Soul King candidate. It's not the amount of spiritual pressure. So you could be insanely strong. You could be stronger than the Soul King, and you would never be a Soul King candidate because you need specific pieces of your soul and components of your physiology.
Did they ever explain why you need to be a corpse in order to be a Soul King candidate? Because they always kind of imply that whoever ends up being the Soul King gets like castrated, basically, or like mutilated.
Well, it's not that you're going to be a corpse, it's that you're going to be unable to move because they don't want you to move.
Well, yeah,
That's
that's
how they've always done it.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, is there ever a reason given why they do that to people?
That's just how they've always done it. As for the reason why they did it initially, that's probably just because the Sunashinaro clan, the original clan that did it, was just a cruel, horrible, evil man that just wanted to cause suffering, and his descendants are psychopaths. So I guess that's the reason why they cut off the rest of the Rayo's limbs. The rest of the head families just kind of followed as protocol because they did it for the sake of changing the world. That guy in particular was a psycho.
Okay, so Aizen was Aizen was
So
Aizen was justified in what he did. Understood. All right.
yeah,
Let's continue.
Its potential
yeah.
form was implied to be above Monster Aizen, who, in a weaker state, could take down multiple captains and was on par with Espada, capable of
Hold on, implied to be above Monster Aizen. My man, he sliced him in half in one hit.
using Gran Racero.
I
What
was,
about that
I
was
was gonna say
implied?
this. There's nothing about that was implied. He sliced him like butter.
Attacks that could
And,
potentially
and, and
wipe
to be
out Law.
fair, Aizen literally just got done saying, you took so little damage from my attack, but that left arm of yours is no longer usable." And then Ichigo's like, "Well, is that all you got?" And then cuts his fucking rings in half.
Right.
No
Let's
chase.
see.
While this might
Continue.
not represent the peak of Uryu's AP, it is certainly worth noting. In the Thousand Year Blood War anime, the fight between U-Hall's Royal Guard and Squad Zero is markedly
It's
different.
actually not worth noting to bring up the Las Noches. That's actually dog water compared to the feats that they do in the Thousand Year Blood War arc
All right.
and in the Memories of Nobody movie.
All right, so we're at 333. So let me continue.
Counterpart. In the anime, Uryu participates in the battle and fights Captain Senjimaro in Bankai, a form that can shake the heavens and the earths of the three realms. Shaking the heavens and the earth of the three realms is a feat that often goes underlooked in the series, and what it implies
Okay. So hold on. I'm gonna pause for a second there on 349. A feat that goes often overlooked in the series. Not only does every Bleach scaler basically salivate over this feat, but in the actual anime, they make a big deal about how the whole like everything's shaking.
Yeah,
They
I
they
wouldn't.
have this
What
on the
is he
books.
saying? Like, what? How is this guy constantly coming to the interpretation that, like, yeah, they're under. We're not really selling it that loud. Really? You mean because she commits a blood sacrifice right before she transforms? That's kind of hard to miss. How am I overlooking the fact that everyone in the room just killed themselves? I
Bleach
would be paying attention to whatever's going on.
Bleach scalers literally just fucking salivated like fucking dogs over meat when this feat came out.
Dude,
I do
dude,
not know what the fuck this guy's talking about.
they were like, "This is what I've been waiting for."
Why this was worth it because this was worth the 10 years.
Yeah. So let's continue.
Yeah,
especially considering the author Kubo's often obsolete writing style. When he refers to shaking the heavens of the three realms, he is indeed alluding to the stars and celestial bodies within those realms. In my previous Bleach-related videos, I discussed the fact that the world of the living and the Soul Society are, in fact, universal. This is clearly the narrative intent of Bleach, as it is depicted to contain numerous stars and celestial bodies, with the Soul Society being stated as parallel to this. Parallel meaning side by side, having the same distance continuously between them. So for the world of the living to be a
Waiting for it to
universe,
give
the
me
Soul
information
Society
as
would
well.
also need to be. Despite being parallel, the world of the living and the Soul Society both share a completely different temporal axis, which is not only explained in the manga when Yoruichi explains the time difference after Ichigo and the gang invade the Soul Society, but is also confirmed by the anime by
They
verbatim
will.
distinguishing the difference
They'll
in
argue a
time
lot of
between the Soul
things
Society and the world of the
because
living.
they're
With
just.
every 3 days
It's
on Earth,
basically the same
equating
argument
to
we
even
get
more
when
days
we
in the Soul
talk
Society.
about
This is something
some of the
Itagaki
feats
also
in
notes,
like
considering
DMC2, for
timelines
example.
are out of sync.
When
Koikomundo,
the
having
demon
established,
world
is
is
considered its
invading,
own
the
self-contained
islands,
realm of
people
existence,
will say,
which
well, it's
corresponds
actually
with
only
the
island level because we
cosmos,
only
which is the
see the
dimension.
effect on like the planet
yes.
or whatever.
Okay, so
Therefore, it's not affecting the universe.
yes. So I'm 5'10". So basically, he is saying of stats here. So I'm assuming Zoro just gets shafted at the end because I'm assuming Naruto, because it's 5 minutes into a 15-minute video, and Naruto's gonna have just as much going on. So I'm just going to assume that Zoro gets like 2 minutes tops, which to be fair, that makes sense.
Between the world of the living
Is that
and the
more than
Soul
you were
Society,
expecting?
but is
A
adjacent to the Dongai and distinct from the Kyogoku dimensions. The Dongai is outright stated to be a hyperspace dimension, and the narrator in Can't Fear
Between these two worlds, there exists a hyperspace called the Dongai. That's the black space, right? Or am I tripping?
That is okay. So the space that you see whenever they have the diagrams of the Soul Society and like the three worlds, Mukan, and all that, the black space that holds the entire cosmology is the Garganta.
Yes.
It dwarfs all the spaces.
Yes.
So
So
yeah,
what's the Dongai then?
the Dawn Guy is basically a separate space that exists between the world of the living and the Soul Society. That's basically completely cut off from both of their flows of space and time, but it connects them together.
Is that like the bridge they
So
go through?
it's the bridge they go through. So whenever you see them open a Senkaimon and they run in that dark corridor with
Yes.
purple, murky water, that is the Dawn Guy.
Yeah,
But there are
that's
also
what I was assuming.
countless Dawn Guys throughout the
Okay.
cosmology.
Okay.
world explicitly
So
uses void of space when likening the Garganta to outer space. So it's referring to space
I
dimensions here,
wouldn't.
meaning it is a
Are you at 533?
About
Or
4D space-time since it holds
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that using the term hyperspace is not like you can argue it's 4D because it has its own space time, but like using the term hyperspace is not like a scientifically recognized term. That's not like that's only like a feat created in the statement created in fiction. It's up to the verse to actually define how it works. Otherwise, it's just considered a different dimension.
Yeah.
Really.
4D objects.
Yeah, it's one of those hype statements that like sounds impressive, but not quite as
Yeah,
direct to it
yeah.
as one of like parallel is.
People just point it out because they'll be like, well, hyperspace means more than three dimensions. It's like, but that's a term that was created in fiction. It has no basis in like reality.
Yes.
Like spherical space-time containers, similar to how outer space, which is a 3D void of space, holds 3D objects like galaxies, solar systems, and planets, so while multiversal is pretty safe. Uryu is able to take down Senjimaru. Beyond this, Senjimaru simply entering into her Bankai could traverse her own reishi across the three realms, meaning she is at least quadrillions of times the speed of light as a result.
Okay, regarding the speed based on energy spreading, do you want to talk about this or
So you can give your take. I'm going to give my own, which I think will be different from yours, but I'm pretty sure we're going to give similar answers.
by all means, go ahead.
No, I said you could give.
So, okay. So what I'm going to say specifically is the energy radiating out of her would not necessarily scale 1-to-1 with combat speed or reaction speed because it's just a property of her existing. It'd be like if you have lights on you, or like if you're glowing at any point, you now scale to the speed of light because you're glowing. That's not how that works.
So I was going to say that technically, I don't think you can even classify this as speed because we don't know how it's being transmitted into the other realms. And technically, if she's in like the Soul King's palace. I mean, spiritual particles, which is what she's sending, they're things that are like smaller than atoms. So they could just be going through space and time to go into those areas and saturating the space. They don't necessarily have to be like, I don't know, like, well, we're not given enough information about how she's doing it. Yes, she's shaking it with her power, so you can argue that like that's an AP feat. That's completely fine.
Yes.
But like, considering there are so many ways you can affect the bleach cosmology, like you can just destroy it directly, or you can mess with the Garganta around the space, and that also affects the space because the Garganta is the container itself. It's possible she could just be affecting the Garganta. She doesn't have to be crossing the distance between them directly, which if she was crossing the distance between them directly, that would not be quadrillions of times speed of light. That'd be much faster.
Yes.
So neither of those are applicable because that's not her actual body doing that. Or her Konpaku, as it's called. I mean, you can argue they're many times the speed of light, like probably the billions or the trillions. That would mostly be based off of multipliers from the beginning of the series, though, and that's just because you have like consistent stuff, but not this. You pretty much can't argue this as a speed feat.
Yes.
I don't think.
All right, let us continue.
Of this, which Uryu, being able to fight with relative AP, scales to her. Uryu, with his scaling to Captain Senjumaru in Bankai, and his various amps should easily be reaching low multiversal as a result of scaling to Senjumaru.
Oh, it's Zoro's next. I didn't get it.
Looking at Zoro.
Okay, so also just to clarify, regarding Uryu scaling to her, then I'm assuming that's how Quincy attacks work. Then, like they can't pierce the body of someone if they're weaker than them.
That's how all attacks, like direct attacks, work in Bleach because they're made of spiritual particles.
Yeah,
so when you're attacking a Konpaku, you are attacking an infused body of compressed spiritual particles. Unless you have more spiritual power, you cannot break into their body.
Yeah.
Unless the ability is not using direct force, like it's affecting reality itself.
Yeah, I was just bringing it up because I know that like Quincy's have the ability to fuck with the bonds between spiritual pressure. Because like
yes, they do.
Yeah, so
they can do that with things like Zayla Schneider or other stuff, but that's not what Uryu is doing.
Okay, yeah, just
Zoro scaling, it's clear that his current self in Elbaf should at least be at continental level. This comes from the fact that characters
Alright, so we got Continental Zoro. Alright.
like Kuzan can create an entire continent of ice.
Is that as high as you were expecting?
Yeah. I also was expecting it to be a little lower, to be honest. Like, Continent is fine. A lot of people are not the biggest fan of Continent level because it kind of it breaks the narrative of One Piece a little bit. But it's like these as the other video we saw the other day pointed out, these are characters who can definitely infuse precision into their more powerful attacks, so it's not game
split an
breaking.
entire massive ice continent in half with a single attack. Even Donsai, who isn't as strong as Zoro, uses a Hasoken style that's capable of splitting a whole continent, so it makes sense to scale Zoro above that. At this point, Zoro should be easily matching those feats, especially since in One Piece, destructive capacity is usually tied to their overall strength. There's more support to this idea when you...
I've done a better job of quantifying the One Piece feats than Bleach.
Yeah, because fucking...
who Zoro is clearly stronger than, was able to break off a huge chunk of Hachinosu, an island that's shown to be much bigger than places like Thriller Bark. Some people even like to equate a huge...
No, I mean, it didn't take him nearly as long to do it, is what I meant. It took him like 30 seconds. It took him like 2 minutes.
I mean, so I'm not just...
Like,
to be fair, there's not really that much hacks to go over, although I will say, and Zoro in particular doesn't have any real lore to talk about. Because I'm not sure how familiar you are with One Piece, but Zoro was not getting a backstory in the official manga. Like, his backstory was given in a Q&A session with Oda because it mattered so little to the story. So we're never going to find out about how he was actually born and shit.
I mean, don't you just get his backstory in like the first arc?
Well, no, because he's from Wano, technically. Like, his bloodline descends from Wano. They just never touch on it because it doesn't matter to the story. Yeah, he's related to, I want to say, like, Odin's, like, grandfather. I could be wrong if he's related to Odin, but he is related to a family in Wano. Ryuma, actually, you know that zombie he fought? I think that's technically, like, his great uncle or something.
Clearly stronger than, was able to break off a huge chunk of Hachinosu.
Yeah. Where are you currently? Timestamp wise?
Bigger than places like...
Okay.
Thriller bark. Some people
minute
even like to
ahead.
equate Luffy's strength with Zoro's strength.
Why the fuck is there so much 3D coloring effects on these fucking panels? Holy shit!
Especially now, and part of the reason is because Zoro managed to land a strong blow on an awakened Luffy in Egghead using his 3
Wait, did he just call Lucci Lukey? Oh, hold on. I'm rewinding back a
The
minute.
reason is because Zoro managed to land a strong blow on an awakened Luffy in
Awaken Lukey. They call him Rob Lucci in the dub, right? I'm not tripping? Alright, well, looks like Ming was ignoring me for now, but I'm not tripping, right? His name's Lucci?
I'm not at that point. I'm further ahead. That's not why
Egghead
I'm
using
not
his
ignoring you.
Alright, so
3
I
I'm
sword
at
promise.
style
17, so you can just chill there
with
or
Aramin
get stopped in
Haki.
order.
Luffy was still able to stand after the attack, but he was clearly shocked.
817?
In comparison,
No, I'm at 7. I'm at 720 because I was commenting on some
Luffy
stuff.
was nearly knocked out after facing
Okay.
several casual attacks from Luffy in Gear 5, which has
Okay, fuck out here with that casual attack shit for Gear 5. Anytime Luffy's using Gear 5, he's using a lot like armament and Conqueror's Haki at the same
led
time.
a lot to debate. Similar in the discussion from the
Zim,
rooftop
don't you
fight,
understand
especially
that he's
around
just casually flicking in his highest transformation?
So no, like straight up, it's so fucking trippy to me how Kaido's like, you're using armament and Conqueror's Haki in this form at the same time, and then every time afterwards, no, he's not using it anymore. That was just for Kaido, even though it's the exact same form, and every version of Gears includes more and more Haki, but not this one. Not for that fight with Lucci.
both
Wild.
Zoro and Luffy having
I'm just making a point about the fact that like every series when a character achieves their most powerful form or like their second most powerful form, you would never assume unless specifically stated otherwise that they are casually attacking people. Because by virtue of being in the form, they are usually releasing an extraordinary amount of energy compared to what they normally do. They're
It's
already above their most casual attacks.
It's just One Piece fans or scalers not wanting to acknowledge that Zoro is probably closer to Luffy than they want to admit. And to be fair, it's not their fault. There's a lot of Zoro fans who genuinely argue Zoro's stronger than Luffy. They're wrong. At least for now, they're wrong. But they're not as the distance is not that far away anymore.
Conqueror's Haki. Even so, Mihawk himself has said Luffy is the better Conqueror's user, and there's still debate over whether Zoro even realizes he's using it. There's no official confirmation in any of the Viva cards, so this is mostly just fan speculation. When it comes to speed, FTL to FTL
Wait, when did this come out? 11 days ago? Oh, this is recent. Hold on. What do you say there?
Conqueror's user, and there's still debate over whether Zoro even realizes he's using it. There's no official confirmation in any of the Viva cards, so this is mostly just fan speculation. When it comes to speed, FTL
Okay, so to clarify, because hang on, I'm gonna re-listen to this whole thing before I say anything.
casual attacks from Luffy in
Sorry.
Gear 5, which has led a lot to debate. Similar in the discussion from the rooftop fight, especially around both Zoro and Luffy having Conqueror's Haki. Even so, Mihawk himself has said Luffy is the better Conqueror's user, and there's still debate over whether Zoro even realizes he's using it.
Zoro does have Conqueror's Haki. That's confirmed in Elbath. Whether or not he's consciously using it doesn't matter because it's heavily implied he has been unconsciously using it the whole time. Because even Luffy says that he's surprised Zoro doesn't realize he has it because Zoro just keeps leaking Conqueror's Haki.
So when he's
There's no-
fighting, is he confirmed to be using Conqueror's Haki?
So consciously, no, but it's always
I,
around
I don't
him.
care if are they stating that it is there when he is fighting.
Yes, it would be there.
Then he gets it. Yeah, it doesn't. Characters can unconsciously, instinctively do things in battle. That's often how a lot of them awaken techniques over the course of stories. They don't have to consciously know how know that it's there in order to use it. That just means it will be controlled more effectively.
Yeah, because him just passively walking around, he has it on. Like he gets criticized for not keeping it in better control because he doesn't even realize it's on.
Official confirmation in any of the Viva cards, so this is mostly just fan speculation. When it comes to speed, FTL to FTL Plus is pretty consistent for Zoro.
Let's continue.
Now, with a lot of moments where characters react to or move at light speed, and these kind of feats have only gotten more common in the recent arcs. That's not to say One Piece characters can't go faster into the FTL ranges. Some people definitely believe that, but I think it's hard to prove that being the case all the time.
So, regarding them being faster in FTL all the time, the issue is not the issue is kind of the feats, but it's also because we've had FTL feats since before the time skip. and every character has gotten astronomically like superior to their previous versions. That's
But
why.
then you have characters that haven't gotten stronger at all that are still comparable.
So that's why there's people who believe One Piece is like MFTL and shit, because when you logically break it down, if you go with the pre-time skip FTL feats as valid, they should be MFTL or somewhere way beyond or like way high into FTL plus at this point. But not important.
Starting at the end of Shippuden, there are two main translations
And
of
we were on to
Kaguya power.
Naruto at
Yes.
8:14.
Creation feats. The most common fan translation says Kaguya can create dimensions as she pleases, which sounds like she can just make a whole dimension and everything in it appear out of nothing, instantly. But if you look at the original Japanese, the word used is sumugu, which means to spin, weave, or yarn. This isn't really a contradiction, as it's still about creation, but it's more like weaving something together rather than just snapping it into existence. It's just a different way to describe the process, kind of like weaving a scarf. We don't know how long this process takes, though it could be fast or slow. What we do know is that Kaguya can completely destroy her own time-space dimension with the expansive True-Seeking Orb, erasing it so nothing is left. This is backed up by Data Book 4 and a volume summary, which both clearly say this happens. A lot of Western fans tend to misunderstand the translations about her destroying her dimensions, thinking it only means she's destroying physical space and not space-time itself. But words like Sekai and Kukan in Japanese can mean an entire dimension or realm, not just space. Of course, depending on the context. They've been used that way several times in Naruto and even in Bleach, so the argument that she only destroys physical space doesn't really hold up when you look at how these terms are really used in the series. Moving on from Kaguya, after the final battle with Naruto, Sasuke loses his arm.
I'm actually going to criticize the video here for a second. He says within the context of how it's used in the series, but he doesn't provide any examples to show the context he's referring to.
Yes,
So,
I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if he'll keep going on about this
so
before he gets to the next set of feats. And when he does, then I'm gonna talk about why the True Seeking Orb is a problem to use.
Since chakra is stored in cells, losing an arm would affect how well he could control his chakra.
Oh wait,
Still,
9:34.
by the time of the last, Sasuke is stated
okay, where are you at right now?
I'm almost there.
to be stronger than Naruto. Later in the Sun Naruto, Sasuke loses his arm. Since
Okay, I'm at like 9:44.
All right, I'm a little behind, but that's fine. Go on.
Gonna talk about the True Seeking Orb thing now because he's kind of just talking about Sasuke scaling, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
I just don't know if this is the right time to bring it up yet.
Yeah. No,
because I think he might have more to talk about.
No, go for it. Go for it.
So basically, the problem with using Kaguya's dimension as a feat that scales to AP, which is what he's bringing up, is that that's not how chakra works, nor is that how chakra even functions in Kaguya's body. So it's pointed out, even if you're using the data book scans, which even if you want to claim that she creates it with the True Seeking Orb, the True Seeking Orbs are basically made from the combination of like all nature transformations, which means they have the elements of creation. That is an ability that is present in the orb itself, which is why it can create matter if it's manipulated effectively. So you wouldn't argue that is an application of AP because the True Seeking Orb at this point is a combination of multiple different elements of changes in form and changes in nature from 5 different sources after it's already been taken from chakra, which is mental and physical energy that has been converted into a projected form, which is converted again 5 more times into all the different element forms, which then becomes the True Seeking. And that's after it's projected out of her body using chakra that doesn't belong to Kaguya. Because most of the feats that she does, most of the stuff that she has, is from chakra she absorbed from the tree. And the case of most of her race is chakra that they got from other people. So that's not a feat her physical body would scale to, because she can't tank that output. She's making it through an ability. Even if you say she's creating it, the way that it's being conducted is not done with a snap of her fingers. Her body isn't made out of chakra. So unlike the Bleach example, where each of those characters are made out of spiritual particles and they're using their raw reishi to affect the realms, Kaguya isn't using the very matter of her body or anything like that. Chakra isn't that. And secondly, this is disproven by the fight there, because Obito points out that his time space, the time space that was created by his ability by Kamui, he doesn't have to use any energy. He uses 0% chakra to teleport jutsu into that realm. He can go there wherever he wants. But he points out that his ability is similar to Kaguya's ability, and he can transport himself to other dimensions, but it takes so much more chakra to do it because he does not own the dimension. He does not control it or create it. Kaguya, when she goes around to her dimensions, quote unquote, she is specifically stated to be consuming enormous amounts of chakra, which directly disproves that she created those dimensions. Because her ability is stated to be the same as his, it works the exact same way, and she also consumes a chakra cost for going there, even though you're assuming it would be hers. But there's no way that could be the case. Because based on what Obito says about that technique, that's not how it works. If the space belongs to you, it doesn't require any chakra to make. So that, as far as we know, that's just a space she found. If you want to say she created it because the data book states that, that's contradicted directly by what's presented in the main story. And even then, it wouldn't matter because it's an ability that's doing the thing. It doesn't have anything to do with her body.
All right.
That's all I have to say.
Let's continue.
Chakra is
I have not read Naruto to confirm or disprove what he's saying. Just
stored
to
in
be clear.
cells.
I'm very much
We just
casual.
Losing an arm would affect how well he could control his chakra. Still, by the time of the last, Sasuke is stated to be stronger than Naruto. Later, in the Sunrise novel, which takes place after the last in Naruto and Hinata's wedding, Sasuke is shown training for a future threat that might be even worse than Kaguya. Because of this, the idea that Toneri is stronger than Kaguya, based on some DVD translations or promo materials, doesn't make any sense, as Naruto beat Toneri with a single punch using his Biju stage mode, not even his 6 paths stage mode, and Kaguya is still treated as the bar for powerful enemies. Even in Scarlet Spring, Sasuke compares Kaguya to the other Kage, and during the Otsutsuki invasion, Naruto is described as having the strongest chakra in the series, and Sasuke is close to him, but a bit weaker. This is shown when adult Sasuke uses his Rinnegan and 3-Tomoe Sharingan, gets blitzed and overpowered by fused Momoshiki, while Naruto doesn't get overwhelmed in the
I'm
same way,
at
using his chakra
1048.
I'm about to get there.
for
hang
a
on.
short time. Together, Sasuke and the Kage managed to hurt Fuse Momoshiki enough for Boruto to finish the fight. So adult Sasuke should be at Universal Plus levels in terms of power. There's also
Alright, 1048. Alright, go for it.
Oh, actually, no, you can go a little bit further.
Okay.
Because they directly point out a feat that by the evidence on screen
to
kind
finish
of
the fight.
disproves
So
its
adult Sasuke
own
should be at Universal Plus levels in terms of
criteria.
power. There's also a section in the official Naruto website that talks about how the Naruto universe started. It says Shibai, an Otsutsuki god, used a Shinjutsu called Omnipotence to make the universe. This ability can make wishes real, change reality, and is described as the program that creates worlds. This context makes it clear that it's talking about universes, not
Ability to have been possessed by the Otsutsuki who attained godhood and used to create the current world. It seals the power, the will to make anything real. Since it was originally an ability only Otsutsuki could wield, Ida is unable to control omnipotence and manifests by automatically changing your subconscious
just
desires into
planets
reality.
or solar systems, since it even changes
So
Yeah.
then creation in this case would be considered a hack then. It would not be considered
Yes, it would be considered a hack's ability. It literally states that it is an ability because they are creating something from nothing from their subjective desires. That's where the Tsukuyomi world comes from, the infinite Tsukuyomi. It is a dream world created from their mind that they are projecting onto people that becomes a reality for them. I'm not saying that's not an ability that they can use and that doesn't manifest in the same way that like someone snapping their fingers and creating a universe would. Of course, you still get a universe in both cases. What I'm pointing out is that is a hack's ability that does not backscale convert into the physical stats for their body. That's the part that hasn't been proven here.
Yes. Alright, let us continue.
Poe's memories while he was in a different dimension, so the limits some people try to put on this don't really fit. Since the Shinjutsu is what made the current Naruto universe, it actually retcons the idea from Data Book 4 that Kaguya created the universe with her god tree. Some people think this messes with the universal scaling from Shippuden, but honestly, it doesn't really change the idea that Kaguya's dimensions can each be their own universe. It just shows that Kishimoto wanted to set up even bigger threats for the future of the series, instead of making Kaguya be the final boss forever, but it's still an important detail. As for speed, when Momoshiki transforms into fused Momoshiki, he can pull chakra from outside his own dimension back to himself in just a few seconds to a minute at most. In the manga and novel, it's stated that Sasuke's Rinnegan could actually see and track the chakra flow. This is impressive because the chakra was traveling across light
at
years of distance
12:15.
in seconds.
Yeah, we're almost there.
meaning that Sasuke's perception speed is at least quadrillions of times faster than light. His dojutsu also makes his reaction speeds even higher. Now that the scaling and feats are laid out, I think it's
Okay,
important to go over the
so
obvious when it comes.
I'm going to just point out for the record that they specifically specify the Renegon can see it. Now, of course, you could make the argument that he would still be perceiving it because the Renegon can see it, but if I remember correctly, the eyes of the Uchiha, the Sharingan, and technically the Renegon, they directly buff your perception, so to speak.
They allow you to see chakra. So you can see chakra at the cellular level. The Rinnegan is a superior dojutsu. We can see it even more definitively because it is the eyes of the sage's six paths. You can
Yes.
see the thing that became chakra before chakra was a thing.
So
So
the reason that I'm bringing this up is because if there's a stream, like a consistent flow of chakra coming at him, even if it's vastly faster, as long as it's still there, it wouldn't matter how fast you can react to it. You'll still see it.
also, this is kind of this commits the same kind of speed fallacy that was presented with what was it, Senjumaru's Bankai, in that he basically claimed earlier in the Bleach section that Senjumaru's Bankai was quadrillions of times the speed of light because her Bankai could basically cross, all the universes and cover the heavens and earth at the same time. We don't know how that's happening, first of all, so we can't like we don't start crossing that distance. And we're not given that example in Momoshiki's, or not Momoshiki, the light novel for Boruto here either. It's just coming out of the dimensions. It's just chakra.
Yes.
So
Even if you want to argue the draining speed, again, unless we have statements that Momoshiki, because if this is the statement we're given to work with, you can technically just make the
that's nothing.
position that he would just see the stream, and that wouldn't necessarily mean that he would react to the chakra moving that fast. He would just see it continuously flowing in.
Makes his reaction
I
speeds
would just
even
say,
higher.
as a
Now that
person that has read directly, not just a number of light novels and series that go over cosmological feats, you need to have a statement of a distance being crossed. You can't infer a distance. Like the narrative needs to point that out to get a position for that, like it crossing a solar system or the galaxy or crossing dimensions with raw speed. You need some allowance of evidence for that. That can't be inferred. This is just an assumption.
That's fine. My position is just specifically that might not be exactly what the feat is need. Like that's not
Oh
the
no
way
no
they're
no!
going to do that.
I don't disagree. He's probably seeing a continuous stream of chakra. They point out in the series whenever characters are wrapped in chakra cloaks, you can basically see everything on them with
Yes.
like the dojutsu
No.
because it's constantly
Yeah,
flowing.
yeah. I understand your position. I'm just saying that, like, well, while you are correct, that like I at least personally can have some leeway with that. Just that feat in particular is just not cutting it, Chief.
Sure.
scaling and feats are laid out,
I'm
I
at
think it's important to
12:15.
go over
Let's continue.
the obvious when it comes to
Yeah.
crossverse debates, and that is, can these characters really even interact with each other? Typically, with these types
Hold on. Can they interact? Now, to be clear, I'm not gonna wait. No,
of
that's fine.
things, yes,
Sorry.
characters like Ichigo and
Because I
Naruto
was
can
thinking to myself, did he misspell interact? But interact should also, I think, work.
Were you about to be like, listen, I got an English degree. Hold
No,
up there, man.
no. I was gonna be like, if he actually misspelled it, that'd be hilarious because I fuck up on occasion too, and I have an English degree. But no, I think interact is fine. Hang on, I need to grab my phone over here. Yeah, I had to
You should
double
probably
check
let him
there.
talk for a little bit longer.
interact with each other like this
So
by merging the energy systems, or reishi and chakra.
I just said we should probably let him go for a little bit longer because he seems like he has a point he wants to bring up.
yep. All right. So I'm at 12:27. Let's continue.
By merging the energy systems, or reishi and chakra. This just simplifies a lot of things, and it doesn't make the whole thing boring. You'll see people argue that because Ichigo and pretty much every character in Bleach is like a soul, and they can't be seen by people, then Naruto just kind of loses because of that fact, which in my opinion is extremely close-minded. So for these characters to even really interact, you really have to assume these types of things. That said, it's hard to say for sure that an ability like Sasuke's Susanoo, arguably the strongest ability in his arsenal, could really do anything against Uryu. This is of course due to the fact that Uryu, as a Quincy...
Yeah, I stopped at 13, 13-0 on the dime.
Okay, hang on. Okay, continue. Now I'm tripping out here real quickly. Continue.
Well, is there something wrong with the grammar? Are you? Is it really rousing up your senses that much?
No, because like I decided to look up if interact was a word because I've heard that word said before, but
Interact is a word, yes.
no, interact is a word, but the way he spelled it, interact. I wanted to see if that was like a spelling of it or something, but no, it's just interact.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
I
Okay,
love how
so
that's bugging you so much.
because he's not pronouncing the T all that often, so I think he just didn't realize there was a T in there.
So, okay, as far as merging the, yeah, I know that's your big discovery. I'm over here trying to
Yeah.
dissect the content. You're just like, did he spell a
It
word
just
correctly?
bugged
I'm
me
having
in
an
the back of my
existential
head
crisis.
because I wasn't sure if he was right or I was wrong, and I always go with the assumption that someone else is right, and I verify it because I can be wrong. So I always assume when someone does something like that they're right, but I don't think he is. I think he just misspelled interact here.
Okay, so as far as merging the energy systems
Yes,
to allow
continue.
the characters to interact with one another, first of all, in any matchup in which they couldn't see the Bleach characters, we would allow them to see the Bleach characters as a concession. That does not mean we completely merge the systems to make all of the energy systems interact with each other. No, that is completely wrong. So, in every case, for every single verse, you are to prove how the energy system works first, and you have to prove how that energy system interacts with another one. If you can't do that, then it doesn't get that interaction. That's completely separate from whether or not the characters are allowed to fight each other. In the case of Bleach characters, while Bleach power scalers do make the point that Naruto wouldn't be able to see him because he's a soul, that's not really like fair because obviously they can see souls in Naruto. However, what is pointed out in Bleach is that the amount of energy, the amount of spiritual pressure that you need inside of your soul to see a Soul Reaper is higher than what you need to see ghosts. Because they point out that Yuzu and people like Tatsuki early on, they can see ghosts, but they could not see Arankars and Soul Reapers until they had like multiple encounters with death to raise their reishi enough to be able to see a Soul Reaper. This is the reason why Ichigo throughout his entire life could not see Soul Reapers, despite the fact that he could see the dead as clearly as he could see the living, which is why he always talked to ghosts. But he could never see Soul Reapers or Hollows his entire life. So when they say that, they're just pointing out that in the Bleach universe, it is quantified that there are different levels of power inside of your soul, and that your soul specifically gets stronger. It's not, while the soul does produce a certain level of power, let's say, planetary or solar system or whatever, the soul itself is getting qualitatively better. It's increasing the power of the soul itself and increasing more spiritual mass. The souls in Naruto don't work that way. They don't get stronger. When a character in Naruto gets stronger, they only really improve their physical body or the amount of chakra they have. So you would not assume that chakra can interact with spiritual pressure like that, or they would be able to like really manipulate it at all, because most of the attacks that affect the soul would just be attacks that directly target the soul, like the Reaper Death Seal. That's just a basic technique that would be touching the soul. So for a Soul Reaper, that would just be you poking their body. That'd be like a normal, that wouldn't even be an attack. That would just be you touching them. Because as I mentioned before, their bodies are basic. Their konbaku is essentially infused with so much spiritual pressure. So there's a reason why people don't equalize the systems, and it has nothing to do with being disingenuous. It's actually the correct objective take. It's because you have to prove how an energy system interacts with another energy system, because you can't just assume that. It would
Yes.
be like me saying that, like, chakra can interact with like hockey, or chakra can interact with like demonic energy, or like chaos energy from like DMC, or I don't know, Warhammer or something. Just because they're energy systems, and it'd be fun to equate them. Like, no, I actually have to prove what they're made up of, and that they can interact with each other. That's
It's a
fallacious to assume otherwise.
Yeah, if you want to do a very thorough deep dive into a versus matchup, you should always consider how close the energy systems are before you make assumptions like that. Now, of course, not everyone does that, and there's not entirely something wrong with
Sure.
that. But if you're going to go into an in-depth discussion like you are here about this, which I mean, it's not in depth; it's like 2 minutes tops. But like, you know, gotta provide some. Go ahead.
Considering what he went into before this, I would assume he was doing the research for the feats and the speed and the hacks, which he probably could have put in a lot more, but he did enough for the general gist of it, and I think that's fine.
Yes.
You should not skimp on the energy system. That is arguably the most important part of a system, because an energy system can make or break the matchup. You can't just equate those things. They're very complicated things. You can't just dull them down like that. If
Yes.
you have what it takes to explain all this, you certainly have what it takes to explain the energy system. I assure you.
All right. Let us continue.
Yuha is capable of absorbing the Reishi and Ryatsu to amp himself and implement into his own attacks. So Sasuke's Susanoo, being a construct made of purely chakra, would get absorbed or penetrated by Uryu's superior power, leading
So where are you at right now?
I am at 316 on the timestamp.
Okay.
to amp himself and implement into his
Why?
own attacks. So Sasuke's Susanoo, being a construct made of purely chakra,
So he mentioned Sasuke Susanoo.
would get absorbed or penetrated by Uryu's superior
Yes.
power, leading us
So do you agree with his assumption that Uryu could absorb the Susanoo with his superior power?
So no, because the Susanoo is not made of soul-based particles. It's just chakra, which is physical and mental energy manifested into reality. That's not the energy of the soul.
Yes, this is one of those.
Also, it's not even physical and mental. Well, go ahead.
No. This is just one of those prime examples of what we just got done talking about. How you have to make sure the energy
Yeah,
system
yes.
is close enough.
So if we explain what chakra is, which is physical and mental energy that has to be needed, meaning you manually have to sit down and meditate this stuff to worm it out, you then give it a change in form and a change in nature, and then it comes out of your body as what we call chakra. That thing, the Susanoo, is that. So even by the time it's gotten out of there, it's gone through multiple energy conversion changes. It's no longer purely mental and physical energy. It's just a generic energy construct. So while Zayla Schneider, because he's going to bring this up if you haven't seen it already, Zayla Schneider can reduce the bonds between spiritual particles, and it would be able to absorb most souls in most other verses, unless the souls are made of specific properties that they haven't shown to absorb yet. It's not going to absorb the Susanoo, because the Susanoo is not a soul-based thing. It's just not. It's not made from your soul.
Let us continue.
to Uryu's strongest ability, Shrift A, or the antithesis. Based on what Uryu says, it allows him to choose 2 points, take the events that have occurred between them, and reverse them entirely. This means he can pick a starting point and an ending point in time, and then flip everything that happened between those 2 moments. During his fight with Jugrim, Uryu explains that he reversed the injuries both of them received, so it looks like he needs a situation that involves more than just one person or object, and can only swap or reverse the outcome between those specific people or things. In this instance, it was the battle damage that Uryu and Jugrim gave each other during their fight. This idea holds up after their battle as well, when Jugrim asks Uryu to transfer his wounds onto him. Uryu only reverses the injuries that came from their fight together. He doesn't just take on all of Jugrim's pain or injuries in general. Otherwise, he would have gotten the wounds Jugrim got from Yuha's Ashwallen too. So for Sasuke to win this encounter, he would need to end this fight off the jump, meaning there can't be any half measures on his behalf. He just needs to attempt to end it as quick as possible in one attack. Unfortunately, I don't see anything in Sasuke's arsenal being capable of one-shotting Uryu, and if Sasuke were to land a critical blow on Uryu and it didn't actually kill him, those attacks would just be reflected back onto Sasuke using his Shrift. So unless you picture Sasuke being able to end this fight in one attack against an opponent who is probably stronger than himself, I don't see Sasuke coming out on top in this. As for Zoro, there's not much to say. In terms of speed and AP, he doesn't have a whole lot going for him. Unfortunately, he's getting one-shot by Sasuke and Uryu. Bye.
I really just have to question why Zoro even was in the video to begin with. Um,
Yeah,
I
it
don't know
didn't
if this
really.
was requested by a fan, perhaps, because that's the only way I could see how this story even happened. Because I mean, this guy clearly knew from word jump, at least by the time the video was done, that Zoro had nothing going on here. The analysis of the fight at the end is basically just Uryu versus Sasuke, which again is basically just if you believe they're comparable, Uryu's superior hats would just give him the win at that point.
Um, I would just argue as well for Uryu. Uryu could just one shot him with any of the Quincy arrows because they would just target his soul directly and hit him. Like that would just go through the Susanoo.
I
Because
also
unlike Itachi's Susanoo, which has the Yata mirror, which is stated to be a spiritual defense, um, he doesn't have that.
yes.
So it's just gonna go straight through the Susanoo, hit him right in the heart, and kill him.
Can I also just point out, I always find it kind of funny how I guess Uryu never uses this the way his ability works in the story, but like everyone's like, oh, well, he can redirect damage, that they inflict on him. What's stopping Uryu from just like stabbing himself in the chest and then just sending that wound onto someone else?
Technically, he'd be redirecting it between two specific points. So I mean, I guess he could, but they would already have to have like maybe like a wound or something else. So he could reverse his wounds of like a deep, stab wound in his abdomen, which Uryu and bleach characters in general can survive stabbing themselves in the gut, despite that being like a lethal wound. They can survive those things. He survived having his hand cut off pretty easily and being stabbed in the abdomen before, so he could do that. Uh, I'm
So
assuming the reason he didn't do it against Hoshwall is because Hoshwall had the balance, which
no.
basically does the same thing as the antithesis.
No, that's fine on its own. Like, I understand why he wouldn't do it in like that particular fight. But what I'm saying is, like, for power scalers, they're like, oh, well, he can redirect the blows that someone else deals to him. Yeah, but what if he just like slits his own wrist and then just like sends that to someone else?
It is incredible the amount of applications he can do because he can also shift his position with other objects. There's better examples of him doing it in the Thousand Year Blood War anime because he uses it against
Ichigo.
what is it, Senjumaru, where
Oh,
he swaps places with an item
yeah.
to move himself. And I'm kind of surprised he didn't bring this up. Sasuke actually has an ability like that. It's his Rinne Sharingan ability where he can shift states with something, or he can shift places by teleporting with something. But it's not exactly causality manipulation. He's doing a teleport swap. And
Yes.
I'm like, okay, so like if we acknowledge that's an incredibly useful ability, like we should probably mention that every single usage of the ability is more than just reversing wounds. It's just causality itself. He could do anything with it. The possibilities are endless.
It's why I just always find it funny because he's all like, "Oh, he can do this, this, this," but like, okay, so Uryu just like pops out his eye real quickly and then just redirects out to Sasuke. And the Sasuke now is he now missing his Rinnegan? Is that how this ability works?
Also, I would like to point out that in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, he also demonstrates new abilities that he has and new containers and things that he can do. He can summon a giant like spiritual box around your body that basically sucks out your reishi. So he could just suck out your entire soul, and it's powerful enough to contain people in it, including people like Renji after Renji has gotten to the Soul King's palace. So it's designed to suck out the spiritual pressure of like, you know, beyond captain level soul reapers. So it's definitely going to work on Sasuke, and Sasuke has no resistances against a soul drain or soul absorption of that level or magnitude. Not even close.
I mean, I wouldn't even really argue there's instances to it in the first place because, like, I think even Orochimaru was like scuffed by a soul stealing technique.
No, no one really does
Yeah,
because the Reaper Death Seal, which is considered an S class forbidden jutsu, when it is activated, it can basically rip out anyone's soul. In Naruto, they just need the physical strength to like pull the thing out. But when you cut off the connection to the soul or even part of it, it just destroys the physical body or that
yes.
portions of the physical body in Naruto. So no, the soul is not used defensively in Naruto. So any attack to the soul in Naruto should be lethal,
Yes.
or should at least be destroying them completely. So that is a reason why we also don't equate the energy systems, because we would be severely not just handicapping certain verses, we would just be taking a position that is completely objectively wrong with how a certain system works, just to allow for the illusion of fairness, which that's not fairness. That's being disingenuous.
Yes.
Sasuke wouldn't be doing that well normally. So you'd be giving people false impressions.
Yes, because you'd be giving an absurd advantage to one character by equalizing it, which is usually how it goes. It's why there's a lot of back and forth as to whether or not versus
And
One
it
Piece is
also it
fair.
also doesn't typically matter that you'd be doing that, because in most cases with Bleach characters, their hacks are so stupid that the advantage doesn't even matter.
Yes.
So why even settle the playing field just for them to get stomped? It's just an inaccurate assessment for no particular purpose. It didn't benefit anything.
Yes. Well, okay. I think we're just good calling it there. The video was well edited. I feel like there
Oh
should have been
yes,
a lot more scans for a video like this. The audio was good. Good overall, well made video. No disrespect to the
great editing.
creator. It's just you did three characters in 15 minutes, and you had less scans than your average death battle for like
It,
4 minute like blurbs. I feel like there should have been a
it
lot more scans
definitely
here.
felt like it was. It definitely felt like it was a Bleach video for the most part. Which again, out of these,
Yes.
I don't have a problem with spending more time on Bleach. I think Bleach has more lore that you have to go over. But Naruto also has a lot of scans you got to cover, and One Piece does as well. So you got to give them more runtime.
So to be as fair as possible, breaking down the numbers, it's 6 minutes for Bleach, 6:30 roughly, but we'll say 6 minutes. It is 2 minutes for One Piece, and then it's 4 minutes roughly for Naruto. So, because give or take some variance.
Yeah, but a lot of that isn't even evenly dispersed, because Zoro's is split pretty evenly between his like power, speed, and his hacks. Bleach's is kind of split 50-50 between his, and Naruto's is like 80% of it is focusing on Kaguya speed,
Actually,
which is
I'm trying to remember if he even mentioned observation
concerning.
ability or not. No, I get you. Well, to be fair, it definitely felt like what he was really focusing on for this video was explaining the uni plus arguments or the uni arguments and why he supports them. It felt like a lot more of what was going on for these
Yeah,
breakdowns.
which I'm kind of confused. Like, why did he even bother equating the energy systems if he just admitted that that Uryu scales to low multiversal levels of power, and the highest you can get, Kaguya's feat, is Uni Plus? Then Sasuke would just get one shot. The amount of power that Uryu's outputting would be at least one universe higher than, well, actually multiple universes higher than him.
I feel like I'm not gonna assume any personal biases because I think he did a relatively fair, even-handed job at scaling the characters. I'm not gonna sit here and say any character was done dirty in any particular way. Maybe some people will disagree, um, but I feel like if they're this comparable, because we didn't really get any speed numbers, we got a lot of assumptions. I'm assuming he has calculations somewhere that gave him his like positions. But this really just broke down to Uryu's hacks just beats Sasuke, and that was the story.
It's like, shouldn't have been why Sasuke versus Uryu versus Zoro isn't close, because it really should have just been Sasuke versus Uryu, the breakdown.
This really felt like the video should have had like a bonus Zoro section where the guy's like, they asked me to do Zoro, but here's the information for Zoro. And to be fair, I mean, he did the Zoro section just fine. It's just that like it didn't really need to be there. I feel like Naruto could have probably used a few more scans, maybe probably would have helped out a little bit.
If there had been 3 or 4 minutes of just explaining how chakra worked, and Reishi, that would have saved a lot of things.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad video. Good overall. Just not a lot of not too much meat to dive into here. But you know what? Considering I think the second to last one we did was that Emperor video. I'll take this any day of the week. This was actually
Oh,
like a
this is
solid
this is
video.
way this is way better. I've never seen. or at least I don't think I've seen any videos from this guy. But
Thank,
this is
thank you
significantly
for
better.
thank you for having scans. Regardless of your
You're
position,
having
thank you for the
stump.
scans. But yeah, no, good video overall. Check it out if you guys want to hear it in more crisp, clear audio, or check out this guy's channel. I'm sure if the video quality is like this, it's obviously some decent watches across the board. And yeah, I think we'll call it there. So, any final thoughts, Mangler, or you think we're good?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys on the next streamer video. Take care, everybody. Have yourselves a nice night.